So Democrats are threatening to break everything. So according to Axios, adding Supreme Court justices, eliminating the Senate 60-vote threshold to end filibusters, and statehood for D.C. and Puerto Rico. If he holds a vote in 2020, we'll pack the court in 2021, said Representative Joe Kennedy of Massachusetts. According to Axios, Democrats are not optimistic about blocking the nominee, but they have many ways of retaliating if they win Senate control and are licking their chops about real movement and ideas that have been pushed futilely for decades. For instance, the Constitution does not fix the number of justices, which could be changed by an act of Congress and the president's signature, according to the National Constitution Center. Apparently, again, Schumer has already said that he would think about packing the court. House Judiciary Chair Jerry Nadler tweeted yesterday, if Senator McConnell and Senate GOP were to force through a nominee during the lame duck session before a new Senate and president can take office, then the incoming Senate should immediately move to expand the Supreme Court. Also, we already know that Democrats have talked about eliminating the filibuster. Remember that President Obama, who used the filibuster many, many times, robustly, he used the filibuster during his Senate career. He called the filibuster rule a Jim Crow relic. Remember, Democrats have used that Jim Crow relic several times this year to stymie Republican legislation, including a coronavirus relief bill, as well as a police reform bill. They've also talked about adding D.C. and adding Puerto Rico as states in the assumption that both of those will then vote Democrat, which would add 4 Democratic senators and completely skew the balance of power in the Senate of the United States. That would be a complete violation of institutional norms, going back all the way to the beginning of the Republic. If there were 2 sides in America, whatever those sides were, pro-slavery, anti-slavery, Democratic versus Republican, the basic rule was, whatever the 2 sides were, if you were going to add states, you added them 2 at a time, 1 for one side, 1 for the other, so you didn't violate the constitutional structure and create an impetus for states to believe that they were being jobbed and then leave the Union. Okay, Erwin Chemerinsky, who is a longtime Democratic theorist from USC, he has a piece out today in the LA Times openly calling for the Democrats to pack the court. He says that this is the secret weapon. They should pack the court ASAP. He says, one way for Democrats to make clear they will not tolerate Republicans trying to fill this seat in advance of the election would be for them to pledge that if they take the White House and Senate in November, they will increase the size of the Supreme Court to 13 justices. The number of justices on the court is set by federal law, not the Constitution. Since its beginning, it has ranged from having between 5 and 10 members. Since the 1860s, it has remained at 9. So now he says we should pack the court. By the way, it's fun to watch everybody rush to the other side, right? So you have a bunch of people who in 2016 were like, yeah, we don't have to vote on Merrick Garland. And Democrats like, you have to vote on Merrick Garland. You must vote on Merrick Garland. And now it's 4 years later, like, you must never vote on Amy Coney Barrett. You must never do it. Like, the switch in time is pretty incredible. People just rushing side to side frantically as the Titanic goes down. So Democrats are threatening to break the institutions. That's not the only institution they are threatening to break, by the way. They're also threatening to use impeachment. And so last I checked, impeachment was for high crimes or misdemeanors. Now, listen, you can impeach for any reason. It is perfectly constitutional to impeach for any reason under the sun. But there's been a general rule that at the very least, you ought to have the slender reed of some basis for an impeachment. Democrats are now saying, what if we just impeached Rando McFace over here to hold up the Senate's business so that they can't actually confirm a justice? AOC said this. She says, what if we just impeach Trump or Barr or like Bob, the janitor over at the White House? Let's impeach that guy because that'll hold up the Senate. And then Nancy Pelosi was asked about this. And she said that we have arrows in our quiver, many, many arrows in our quiver. It was fun. I mean, George Stephanopoulos, who has led a life of attempting to basically spout Democratic talking points through his questions. You'll recall back in 2012 when he randomly asked in the middle of a Republican debate whether Mitt Romney was going to get rid of contraceptives. And everybody was like, what in the hell is he talking about? And that immediately within a week turned into the war on women narrative pushed by the Democratic Party. Well, here is George Stephanopoulos, who obviously had some ideas planted with him. I think it's pretty obvious here. He plants the idea of Nancy Pelosi, supposedly, of impeachment. Here he is saying, what if we just impeach Trump to, hold up the business of the Senate?
Some have mentioned the possibility, if they try to push through a nominee in a lame duck session, that you and the House could move to impeach President Trump or Attorney General Barr as a way of stalling and preventing the Senate from acting on this nomination.
Well, we have our options. We have arrows in our quiver that I'm not about to discuss right now. But the fact is, we have a big challenge in our country.
Okay, worth noting that Pelosi then completely lost her train of thought in the middle of the conversation and literally restarted the interview. So one of the great things about our current republic is that everybody is geriatric and senile who is currently in a position of power or running for a position of power. When the young buck is Chuck Schumer, you know you're in trouble. Here's Nancy Pelosi completely losing her train of thought and nearly keeling over.
10 states, as I said, on Friday, started their early voting the day that we lost Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
But to be clear, you're not taking any arrows out of your quiver. You're not ruling anything out.
Good morning. Sunday morning. We have a responsibility.
Wow. It's weird when those gears get stuck there for just a second and the Botox infuses the brain. So all good stuff happening in the country. Here's the bottom line for a lot of this. What's happening right now is the Democrats are threatening to destroy institutions. And the media are telling Trump that he is destroying institutions by doing exactly what the Constitution says the president is supposed to do. And that McConnell is destroying institutions by doing exactly what the Senate is supposed to do. You can't negotiate with political terrorists. It is political terrorism to threaten to burn down every institution of government unless you get your way. It's what my son does when he is fussing. And he decides to lie on the floor and scream and shout. He does not get what he wants. He goes to his room. In fact, it is significantly more important that Republicans now put through a justice simply to make the point that Democrats cannot threaten to burn down every institution of constitutional government because they don't like the outcome of the system. But we have now seen from the Democrats that they have no respect for any of the institutional architecture of the Constitution. We've been seeing this throughout. For all the talk about Trump violating institutional norms because Trump says vulgar things and boorish things and he's blunt and he says all this stuff. The fact is, Democrats trotted out Stacey Abrams at the DNC claiming she was governor of Georgia after losing by 50,000 votes. I don't want to hear about institutional norms when your party is openly threatening to pack the court, impeach people for no reason just to hold up the process, add states willy-nilly through simple majority vote, and break whatever balance there is in the United States. And here's the predictable result of this. Let's say that the Democrats went forward with all of this. Let's say that the Democrats really went for it. Let's say that they did all of this. Let's say the Republicans appoint Amy Coney Barrett. They confirm Amy Coney Barrett. Joe Biden comes in, and then he says, we're adding 4 Supreme Court justices, and Puerto Rico, D.C., and Guam all become states. Right? We now have 6 new senators, and they are all Democrats, and that's what we're doing. Let's say that happens. How long do you think the country lasts after that? Do you think that Texas, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, any of those states are going to abide by federal dictates coming down from a perverted form of constitutional government nobody consented to? Do you think that they're going to abide by a constitutional decision coming from a court of 13 packed by Democrats? Do you think that states are simply going to remain as they become minorities in a government to which they did not consent? Do you think that that is going to happen? Or do you think we are going to come to a true constitutional impasse? It is not the appointment of the justice that is a constitutional impasse. It is the violation of the system itself that is the constitutional impasse. Republicans cannot give in to this, because if you are living with the sword of Damocles hanging over your head every moment, that, if we don't give Democrats what they want, guys, next time they get power, they're going to kill the filibuster, add states, destroy the Supreme Court. Well, then guess what? We do not have a social compact anymore. So maybe Democrats want to make clear we don't have a social compact anymore. But if they do, it's on them. Okay, because the bottom line is whoever breaks the system is now responsible for the breaking of the system. Appointing a justice and confirming a justice is not breaking the system. Okay, so Democrats are now engaged in open constitutional blackmail. We're going to impeach people for no reason. We're going to pack the court. We're going to add states. We're going to kill the filibuster. We're going to destroy every institution of government because we didn't get our way. That's the short version of this. Now, this thing's been openly partisan for quite a while. Every time Bush nominated someone, it was a far narrower vote. Alito was a pretty narrow vote. Roberts was a fairly narrow vote, actually. Okay, but bottom line is this. McConnell in 2016 said, if the chambers are controlled by different parties, we have no obligation to bring the person up for a vote in the final year of an election. The idea being once we get past the election, if it's Hillary, then we will confirm Merrick Garland. Now, I always thought that was stupid. I thought it was too clever by half. He should have just said, we're not confirming anybody that we don't like. He could have just done that. He didn't do that. Okay, so he got too clever. Because he got too clever, now Democrats are trying to suggest that it's hypocrisy. It is worth noting that it's hypocrisy in the other direction as well. I know everybody's ignoring this, but it is hypocrisy in the other direction as well. Here's every Democrat under the sun in 2016 saying that Merrick Garland's seat should be filled, apparently by a Republican Senate who disagrees with the nominee.
The blockade on filling a naturally occurring vacancy, in my view, is harmful to the independence of the Article III branch.
You cannot keep a seat on the Supreme Court, which represents all of us. You cannot keep it vacant against the Constitution.
Do pretty much everything they can to avoid acknowledging the legitimacy of our democratically elected president.
The American people expect the president's nominee to be given a fair hearing and a timely vote in the Senate.
Every day that goes by without a ninth justice is another day the American people's business is not getting done.
So every Democrat flipped, right? Every Democrat flipped. So they're saying Republicans flipped on this. The only difference is that Republicans were in the majority both times. So they said we don't have to vote on the Democrat and we will vote on the person we like. That is not an unprincipled stand. That is a perfectly principled stand, badly articulated in 2016. So I heard from some conservatives over the weekend. I heard from some conservatives and they were saying, listen, if we want the country to hold together, then there needs to be some sort of compromise here. If we want the country to hold together, there needs to be a compromise. And the compromise needs to be that the Republicans back off of this and Democrats back off of their threats. Because, we have two sides, they disagree on everything, and if we want them not to pack the court, if we want them not to add states, and I said, okay, so what is the guarantee they don't do that anyway, considering they've been talking about it for a long time? Where is the trust? There's no trust that they're not going to do it. The fact they're even making that threat betrays the lack of trust. I mean, is this a peace deal or is this a terrorist deal? You don't concede. I've said this is the third time I said it on the show. It's true. You don't concede to political terrorists. They are threatening to fundamentally burn down the system if they do not get what they want here. You cannot concede to that. In fact, it makes it more important than ever that you fulfill the constitutional mandate and fill the seat. Fill the damn seat. Fill it right now. Do not wait. Fill it this week. Force the Democrats to hold hearings on Amy Coney Barrett or whomever else Donald Trump picks. So Joe Biden is trying to walk it back, right? Joe Biden, this has some real electoral implications, what's happening right now. So the Democrats are stuck a little bit between a rock and a hard place. Like, nobody knows how this is going to break poll-wise, right? It throws a hand grenade in the middle of the election, no question. There are serious electoral implications to this. If Democrats go too far, if Democrats either try to bork Amy Coney Barrett, a Catholic mother of 7 from Indiana with very well-qualified resume, if they try to bork her, or if they threaten that they are going to add states to the country, if they threaten they're going to pack the Supreme Court, if they threaten to impeach, if they go wild here, that puts Joe Biden's campaign in danger. The reason it puts Joe Biden's campaign in danger is because Joe Biden was supposed to be a breath, right? That was Joe Biden's candidacy. He was, yes, I'm old. Yes, I'm doddering. Yes, I'm barely coherent. But that's the pitch. That's not the bug. That's the feature, right? I'm not even alive. That's why you should vote for me, because this has been crazy, right? I mean, it's been 4 years of constant, nonstop tweeting and stress and crazy. Elect Joe Biden, this walking corpse over here, and you can finally take a breath. Because, I mean, really, is anything going to get done with this doddering old guy over there kind of like walking around eating his cream of wheat? Probably not, right? That was the pitch. And it was a good pitch, right? That is a good pitch. I've said for years that was going to be the Democrats' best pitch, was a return to normalcy. Everything will go back to normal. Everybody can breathe for the first time in years. Okay, that pitch completely disappears the moment the entire Democratic Party infrastructure threatens to destroy every institutional norm of the system. If the Democrats now say that if Joe Biden is president, we are adding 2 states and 4 Democratic senators, permanently shifting the balance of power in the United States Senate. If the Democrats say we are going to add 4 Supreme Court justices with lifetime tenure, which means that if a Republican ever gains power, they have to pack the court. So we end up with 29 members of the Supreme Court. And if not, then Democrats have then gamed the system. If Democrats say we're going to kill the filibuster and ram through whatever we damn well please with a packed Supreme Court to greenlight it, breaking the system in every way, right? Because no state is going to abide by that. Again, if you are Texas or Mississippi or Georgia or Florida, are you going to sit around and listen to a federal government with 51 votes, no filibuster, greenlit by a packed Supreme Court, tell you that constitutional norms no longer exist and they can pass whatever they damned well please? Okay, this is no longer a campaign running for a return to normalcy. This is a campaign running for a complete remaking of the American government toward a direction that nobody has consented to. And Joe Biden knows this, right? Joe Biden knows that the more Democrats fulminate over this, the more they look radical, the more they look scary. It becomes a referendum on what the Democrats will do, not on Donald Trump's weirdness. Because here's the thing. What Donald Trump's doing right now is perfectly normal. Every single president who has ever encountered a Supreme Court opening has nominated a human to fill that opening. Every single one. So Donald Trump is right now doing the most normal thing he has ever done in his presidency. Donald Trump is being extremely normal. I know. Sentence I never thought I would say. What he's doing right now is the most normal thing he has ever done in his entire presidency, bar none. Democrats are now the party of radicalism. Democrats are now the party of not normal. It is not normal to threaten to impeach somebody just to hold up the Senate process. It is not normal to say that with 51 votes, you're going to pass whatever legislation you want, including full states with their own sets of senators. That is not normal. You don't get to claim Donald Trump is a threat to America's core institutions while simultaneously threatening to violate every single norm and completely change the structure of the balance of power and the institutions themselves. You can't do that. You know who knows that is Joe Biden. So Joe Biden is scared. And so what Joe Biden is saying is we need to de-escalate. So Joe Biden is not actually willing to make these threats. The reason he's not willing to make the threats is the minute he does, this becomes a referendum on Biden, not a referendum on Trump. So Biden's smart enough to know that, right? He recognizes that. And so instead, he's over here on the side saying we need to de-escalate. Guys, we really need to de-escalate. He's going to try and turn this into Trump being not normal. That's a very difficult pitch. What he really has to protect himself from here is the left flank of his party, which is now the mainstream flank of his party. We are beginning to see the conflict break out into the open between the Kamala Harris wing of the party and the Joe Biden wing of the party. Here's what Joe Biden could do, right? And he won't. What Joe Biden could do is he could, right now, say to Mitch McConnell, here's the deal. I pledge, right, in public writing, and he would have to give some sort of guarantee that makes some sense. I pledge we will not pack the court. We will not do any of the world-breaking things I'm talking about. We will not kill the filibuster. We will not add states. We won't do any of that if you hold the seat open. Joe Biden can't do that, though. Right? See, that'd be an easy giveaway for him. But he can't do that because his own party will kill him for doing that. Remember, they were talking about this stuff before the seat opened, which means they already shot the hostage. They already made the threat. It's too late. There is no trust that can be built on the back of Joe Biden. Nobody's going to trust that even if Joe Biden guarantees personally that they're not going to do any of these things, that they won't do any of those things, regardless of whether the Republicans fill the seat. There is no stepping back from the brink here. It's not a thing that is going to happen. Republicans must, morally speaking, move forward. That's putting aside all of the impact that a Supreme Court justice will do. Again, I'm not a person who believes deeply in the generalized power of the Supreme Court. I think they tend to more green light trends than they do actually stand up for the Constitution. But there will be edge cases where the Supreme Court makes a difference, and preventing the left from gaining complete footholds in the Supreme Court, that is a real thing. And I'm more interested in having another person on the Supreme Court to not be wild leftist than I am suggesting faith in the Supreme Court to implement actual constitutional principle.